TSM announces the Valorant team. Unfortunately, they're going to have to play from the old folks' home, where the where the internet speed might not be too good. We talked about this a little bit before. It's a group of former Counter Strike players, and they're all literally like our age. And I don't want to
Yeah.
like pretend like we're like the oldest people, but there's if you're watching, there's lights in the beard over here. I'm not exactly like at the peak of my reflexes.
There's definitely not a 2 in the number.
It might be just on the other side of the three. um, but yeah, it is what it is. They had been playing together. Basically the whole time Valorant was out. They got picked up as TSM's team. Yeah, we'll see how they do. You know, it's hard because it's like on one side, on one end of the equation, I'm like, you've got people who have tons of experience in the exact style of game that Valorant is, and they've been
Yeah.
doing well in whatever competitive scene exists as of today. But on the other end, like things are just harder when you get older, man. Like eyesight goes,
I'm not
re-
buying that. I'm not buying that.
reflexes go.
I'm not buying that.
You not buying it?
I'm
I
not
do.
buying that you can't compete in esports at a certain
No,
age.
I believe you can. I believe you can compete in esports forever. And that's why I think this is interesting, is because there are real legitimate physiological changes that become a disadvantage to some degree. But most of esports are about, most games in general are about craftiness, know-how. Like it, you can
Work
make up a
ethic.
lot.
Work ethic. It's number one.
Yeah.
Work ethic.
How many hours can you put in? You know, how well do you know your maps? How well do you know different things? And yeah, so it's going to be interesting. I joke, I make the old folks home joke because they're literally our age. Like I'll be rooting for them because
Just team
they're,
old guy.
yeah, well, because there's that entire thing. It's like, oh, you're past 18, you might as well give up on trying to play games competitively. It's
Damn.
like, look, my reflexes might not be the same, but like I know a lot more about a lot of things now. You know, I also have the money and the wherewithal to actually focus on certain things. You know, and in a lot of ways, I think you're almost primed. In some ways, you're almost primed when you're older to be able to make a push. It's almost like you have to be young or like past 30. That's like the window. You know, because
Yeah.
either you're so young, all you have to worry about is school and whether or not your mom bought you Pop Tarts, you know, or you're our age and you have like, you know, expendable income and you can spend your time doing what you want, you know.
Yeah.
And but there's that whole like middle ground where
But
you're
you
not.
can't mess up like Dan and get a wife and kid. You got to do what I did and just like live alone and be fine and have tons of free time
If that's what,
and expendable income. That's the real play.
yeah. If you want to be the old guy esports guy,
Yeah, you got to
that
be me.
that's the trick.
But my problem is now if like so I'm trying to get back in Siege, right? So if I go and I start looking at teams, I start finding teams with like people that are half my age.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of sucks. But I mean, like I'm 31, like I'm not like 50, but still, like all the teams are like, we're looking for 16 plus, and I'm just like, oh,
It's like,
hate
dude,
y'all, hate y'all so much. But okay, this is the first instance of everything we were saying about Valorant, how it's just going to be a bunch of washed up Counter Strike pros, and here is our first washed up Counter Strike pro team.
mm-hmm.
It is TSM, and I don't understand this from a brand perspective because when I think TSM, I think cool, trendy YouTubers and really hyper talented people. Like I think of like TSM Myth and TSM Bolo, and I like that's what I think of. I don't think of TSM old guy who's been a T2 player in Counter Strike for 2 years. It
Yeah.
just doesn't fit the brand. Like when you think 100 Thieves, you think like cool Supreme guy. Like when you think of Face Clan, you think of like you phase up, we're wearing the Supreme shirts and all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And it's like when I think of TSM, I don't think of these people. But
You don't think of us chatting about our 401k investments,
yeah,
you know, on a Saturday over a beer. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of people are just rushing to get a team. I think that's what it
yeah,
really comes down to. I mean, we had that discussion, right? Ninjas in Pajamas was like, we're taking our
yeah. We're taking a
Paladins
Paladin
team.
team.
It was like, okay, I love those
Okay.
guys, you know,
They're
like,
cool.
but yeah, yeah, I
I
don't
don't
know.
know, man. I think they kind of just got picked up because they were a static and they weren't willing to. let one person go, or have one or two people get picked up by a team. That had to be as a whole unit. So I think that's just sort of like the lazy way of picking up a team. Like, oh, you're a team. Okay, here you go.
Yeah, instead of
Instead
picking
of
up different
actually
people.
scouting individual people.
Yeah, and having to
But I
build
mean,
the
it might
chemistry.
work out. Plus, they're all Counter-Strike players, so they're all probably cracked out on that game anyway.